Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV, episode number 111. We're from Alter Ego Comics, a comic book store in Lima, Ohio. And we're back every week to talk to you about the books that we really liked. And we're going to try a different format this week because I really liked a lot of stuff. This is all about me. Josh hates this format, but we shall see. But before we get to that, we need an update on March Madness.
Oh, March Madness is getting serious. Last week we made it down to 4 titles, and the winners coming out. We have Batman trouncing Justice League, and Saga basically Saga actually did better against Manhattan Projects than Justice League did against Batman, but Saga definitely won out handily. And so now we have next week going head-to-head, top 2 books of last year, Saga and Batman. Make sure you come in and vote to help decide the best book of last year.
And if you haven't picked up one of these 2 books this week, they are 25% off. So you can pick up Batman Volume 1 by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, and or Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Both books that we love, both books you should own. And if you don't, there's no excuse now because they're 25% off. All right, well, that was our March Madness update. We're kind of doing like a lightning round format this week. As I said, a lot of stuff came out this week, and we're just going to go through. We may duplicate each other here, but we may have different things to say about the books, so it's going to be a little bit of a faster format if I ever stop talking. I'm sure that's what you're thinking. So, first up for me, Guardians of the Galaxy #1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Steve McNiven. I love the .1 issue. I loved this #1 issue. If you like Iron Man, if you like Groot, Rocket Raccoon, Star-Lord, any of these fun characters, you want to check this one out. There's a big movie coming out next year called Guardians of the Galaxy. Go figure. So, Guardians of the Galaxy #1 gets a thumbs up for me. Really enjoyed it.
All right, A+X, #6. This is the crazy title that throws in 2 random stories that have nothing to do with anything and is generally just fun. This week we get a Peter David story about Captain Marvel and Wolverine, and then we get another story by Mike Costa about The Thing and Gambit. They're all about playing poker. They are all hilarious, and they're great characterizations. A fun palate cleanser between serious, heavy books.
And these are Josh's books that he owns, that he throws on the floor. Come buy that book that he just threw on the floor. Aquaman #18 by Jeff Johns and Paul Pelletier. Aquaman has been one of the most consistently solid books of the New 52. It got a lot of press because nobody really likes Aquaman. It's hard to write an Aquaman book. He talks to fish. He wears a glowy orange outfit. But this issue 18 is another example of why this should be on your DC reading list. Very solid. Aquaman is on his own now. We've left the Throne of Atlantis storyline for the most part, and Aquaman is now King of Atlantis again and has all of the troubles that go along with being king of an undersea kingdom. Great stuff.
Next up from Milan, Dayglow Orange Chainmail will be all the rage next season. My next pick this week is Injustice, Gods Among Us 3. It's so good. The adaptation of this comic book, or the prelude to this comic book, has been heart-wrenching and hilarious, and if you're a DC fan, you should absolutely be reading it. Every issue, they go bigger than the last issue, and so far they're doing an amazing job. So, very serious stuff going on in Injustice 3.
Wolverine and the X-Men #27 continues my love of Wolverine and the X-Men. We get, again, this is really about Wolverine. It's called Wolverine and the X-Men. His name's in the title. But for me, this book has been about the maturity of Wolverine, the evolution of the character, and Jason Aaron doesn't disappoint with another really solid issue where Wolverine takes some of the younger characters under his wing, and actually there's a great part in here. I don't want to spoil it, but he assigns a code name to one of the characters, which is a throwback to one of, or in his words, his favorite X-Man ever. He assigns them the code name. Anyway, great stuff. Love it.
Next up, Garth Ennis's Red Team 2 with art by Craig Cermak. This continues the story of cops who've been pushed too far and decide to push back and kill some people that the law can't get. Continues to be really great human drama, kind of going through the cost to these people, as well as, setting up and planning murder. So it has kind of a heist aspect and a very cool procedural thing, and it's about honor and how far to go. And Garth Ennis is really knocking it out of the park on this one. I think this is going to be one of his great books.
Next up for me, Uncanny Avengers #5 by Rick Remender, and guest art this month by Olivier Coipel, who did House of M and is doing the new Brian Wood adjectiveless all-female X-Men team in May. So This book, I've loved it from the beginning. Remender has really captured Chris Claremont's essence, I think. He's visited his house and collected some tears of gypsies, some tears of Chris Claremont to take on his essence. It has a feel of a classic Claremont X-Men book. The interplay between the characters, whether they're Avengers or they're X-Men, the leadership by Havoc is awesome in this issue, and Coipel's artwork is outstanding. Cassaday is very divisive, I think. Some people, you either love him or you hate him. Coipel's stuff is really great, and to see him take on these characters was excellent. Really loving Uncanny Avengers. It had a really strong start, and I think people have kind of gotten confused or bailed out on this a little bit because of all the competing X books, but you really don't want to miss this one. Remender's doing a bang-up job.
Next up, Green Hornet #1. What? Didn't we have like 7 Green Hornet #1s in the last 5 years? Yes, we did, and this is a new one. But this one, fortunately for you, is written by Mark Waid, and it's got art by Daniel Indro, and it's really good. Mark Waid, you may remember from such books as Kingdom Come and Daredevil, which we love so dearly. It's great jumping on point, especially if you've like been reading Masks and enjoying the kind of classic pulpy characters. Green Hornet #1 starts from the beginning, gives you everything you need, but it also adds cool character moments for those of you already familiar with Green Hornet's origin. They're going back to the classic time period rather than the modern Kevin Smith era stuff, and it was really good. I kind of went in expecting very little, and Mark Waid delivered far better than I could have suggested.
Next up for me, Green Hornet #1 by Mark Waid. We didn't even plan that. It just happened that way. Really loved this first issue. Everything Josh said, I agree with. And you can be a complete novice with Green Hornet. You could have seen the crappy movie with Seth Rogen and just wipe the palette clean, ignore that. Really good. And the artwork surprised me, too. A lot of times with Dynamite, they kind of go subpar with the artwork, but this really fit the story well, and I highly recommend it.
5 Weapons #2, written and drawn by Jimmy Robinson. Remember, this is a book I kind of raved about the first issue. Very cool. Kid goes to an assassin school, and it's there's a surprise at the end of the first issue I won't spoil, but we do get more of a payoff on that. And it continues to be very fun and very inventive and just a very cool read. So if you enjoy kind of surprising films like, let's say, The Usual Suspects or things where it's more about being smarter rather than about being tougher, The 5 Weapons is a great choice.
East of West #1 by Jonathan Hickman and Nick Dragotta. Great stuff. Hickman just can do no wrong at this point. Some of his stuff is kind of heady, it's kind of intellectual, and this is one of those books too. There's a nice mix of alternate history. It's in a way similar to Manhattan Projects, which is also written by Jonathan Hickman, but without the humor. There's very little humor in this. It's a very dark book. It involves the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. But it's a completely different take on those characters, and it's got so many levels to it and so many layers to it. You really feel like you get your money's worth when you buy a Jonathan Hickman comic because there is so much to it. And the artwork by Nick Dragotta is awesome. The Nick Pitara artwork on Manhattan Projects is kind of gritty and a little bit cartoony, whereas Dragotta's artwork fits this series, the content of this series, much better. High expectations. I had high expectations. I think everybody has high expectations for East of West, and you will not be disappointed.
All right, next up, Guardians of the Galaxy #1. Written by Brian Michael Bendis with art by Steve McNiven. This continues the success that I loved in the .1 issue. We're still getting a very cool, very personable Peter Quill, arguably probably the best fleshed out Peter Quill character we've ever seen. We're also getting a lot more of the traditional team. I'm a huge Rocket Raccoon and Groot fan, and so we get some cool moments with them in here. We get the integration of Iron Man, Tony Stark into the team, and it's really building up into a very cool book that will hopefully lead to a very cool movie next year.
All right, I'm going to do, well, I guess I'll do these separately, but I'm going to say the same thing about both these books. But Young Avengers #3 by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey and Mike Norton. Just a great book. It's so different from the majority of the superhero books that Marvel's putting out right now. It kind of falls a little bit into the realm of Hawkeye territory in that it's not your typical superhero book. But I would definitely recommend this book for indie comic fans. If you're an indie comic fan and you're looking to get into Marvel Comics, pick up Young Avengers. This new series, actually the previous series too, but this one is it's got that indie spin to it that Kieran Gillen brings to a lot of the things, and he came out of the indie comics world, so it makes sense. All of the characters are very relatable, very likable, except Kid Loki. Some people like him. Josh likes him, I know, but it's so good, and McKelvey's artwork is awesome. I've developed a true appreciation for this guy's stuff. Young Avengers, go buy it.
Next up, East of West #1.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hickman and Dragotta return. Everything Mark said about the book holds true. It's great the way Hickman kind of merges mythologies and maybe makes up mythologies and layers on things with jumping around in time. And his books are very, like you said, complex, kind of dense reads sometimes. And it really works to his favor because he can set up all of these things that later pay off or intertwine in interesting and surprising ways and give you that aha moment where you understand what's going on. And I don't think he could do it in a simpler format, and he's really just mastered it. East of West, great kind of future sci-fi, Western, end-of-the-world apocalypse. If you like it, it's probably an East of West. Great read.
FF number 5 by Matt Fraction and Michael Allred FF's been on my list since it came out. I was so pleasantly surprised and blown away by the first issue. Didn't think I was going to like Allred's art, but it's definitely grown on me, and it fits this series very, very well. This also falls into that indie comic territory. If you're an indie fan and you want to get into superhero stuff, I just said all this about the previous book, but FF would be another great place to start because it's got your traditional Marvel superhero stuff, but it feels like an indie book. It feels like it doesn't relate to anything else that's going on in the Marvel universe. It stands on its own two legs, and again, cool characters, great artwork, great dialogue by Matt Fraction. FF should be selling better than it is, so check that one out.
Next up, we have Think Tank, written by Matt Hawkins with art by Rashid Edikal by Rashid. Think Tank continues its story arc about genetics. This is the cool story, the cool book about a think tank guy who comes up with horrible ways to kill people for the military. And one of the things I really love about this book is the practicality of it. I mean, you have him going through and doing these kind of semi-futuristic things and coming up with technology that may or not be there, but then you also have 3 or 4 pages at the back how the writer basically gives you the information and tells you where to look to show that all of this stuff is just around the corner. Some of it's already here, and it's a little terrifying, but it's a lot of fun. They do a lot with personality and making these characters doing kind of horrible things really likable, or at least understandable and relatable. So Think Tank is a great read.
Superior Spider-Man number 6 AU. What's that you say?
Aww.
Superior Spider-Man number 6 came out last week. Well, it did. So this is number 6 AU. I don't really understand what Marvel's doing.
I believe that's the chemical symbol for gold.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the gold edition. Although the gold foil was on Age of Ultron number 1. Or did we decide that wasn't gold?
Yeah.
Anyway, Superior Spider-Man number 6 AU. God love you, Marvel. Can't you find a better way to get this information out there? I'm afraid that many of you will skip this issue because it's confusing. It has the same number as the issue that just came out last week of Superior Spider-Man. It's not written by Dan Slott. It's written by Christopher Yost, with artwork by Dexter Soy. But it is...
It's actually written by Christos Gage.
Oh, sorry,
But...
Christos Gage. Did I say Christopher Yost? He did something last week, this week. Christos Gage, thank you, and Dexter Soy. But this is... important reading if you're following Superior Spider-Man and if you're following Age of Ultron. You do not want to miss this issue. By the time this video goes live, you'll have had a few days to read the new comics from this week, more than likely. So I do want to throw a little spoiler alert out there if you don't want to find out. This isn't really a spoiler. The book's called Superior Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus is Spider-Man in the Age of Ultron. So if you've read Age of Ultron 1 and 2, it seemed to us like Peter Parker was himself, but now we find out that it does take place in present day, as we've said before, and Otto Octavius is Peter Parker / Superior Spider-Man in the series. Very long-winded explanation there, but it's so good. You get to see Otto Octavius pitting his mind against Ultron, and here's Dr. Octopus, who's master of machines and has been master of machines since he developed his octopus arms. But can he take on Ultron, and can he defeat him, and can he help the heroes, and why would he help the heroes? Does he want to help the heroes? Anyway, Superior Spider-Man number 6, number 6 AU, I'm sorry. You want to read it before you read Age of Ultron number 3, and we'll get to that in just a minute.
And my last pick this week is Young Avengers number 3 by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey. Everything Mark said about the book is true. It's great. I've loved every issue. I'm a huge Kieran Gillen fan. And what I especially like about this is, in a lot of ways, when you read a Kieran Gillen book, it's probably a lot inspired by his indie series Phonogram, which you should totally check out if you get the opportunity. It's about using Britpop music as a form of magic, and it's very cool. But it gives you a lot of sense of the movie High Fidelity with John Cusack, or the book of High Fidelity. But it's these people that are like us. They're nerds. They love things. They
Speak
reference
for yourself.
things. Yeah, whatever.
Go ahead.
Star Trek boy. these people are like us. They're normal, and these are superheroes who talk like we talk. They make references to TV shows and movies, and when they don't understand something, their friends explain it to them in a way that involves pop culture. It's a very real, very sort of visceral feel that you get from the characters, and I just love it. Young Avengers, great choice.
All right, last up in our marathon of comics this week, Age of Ultron #3. This is Brian Michael Bendis and Brian Hitch, and Age of Ultron is going to turn out to be something big, folks. If you're not checking it out, you really should, especially if you're a Marvel fan. You should still be able to find the first 2 issues. You will at our store at least, and hopefully at your local store as well. And there is a big surprise ending to this issue. Other than that, it's more of how does this ragtag group of heroes survive in the Age of Ultron. And I may have mentioned this when we talked about issue #2, but I've heard a number of people now kind of compare this to The Walking Dead on the level of you've got, again, a ragtag group of survivors that are trying to fight off unbeatable odds, and there are Ultron robots flying around all over the place, or sentries, similar to the zombies just being everywhere. And how do they survive? They're in hiding, the humans anyway. So it's got a Walking Dead vibe to it. If you're a fan of Walking Dead and you're looking to get into Marvel Comics or superhero comics, this might be kind of a way to ease into that and have that same feel that you get from that same feeling of danger and suspense and, oh my gosh, anybody can die. And there is death in this issue. So Age of Ultron, it's been good from the beginning. Hitch's artwork is really surprising me. Normally I'm not a huge Brian Hitch fan, but I'm really digging what he's doing, especially his landscapes. They're amazing. Whew. All right. So anyway, that's what was that? 19 comics with some duplicates. So much great stuff came out this week. You want to hit your local comic book store, come in and see us, and we'll tell you more about what we liked. So let us know what you like too. Put it in the comments below. We always appreciate your feedback. And next week, actually, let us know what you think about this format. Whether you want to do kind of this lightning round, rapid fire review type stuff, or whether you want us to go back to talking about 3 or 4 books or 5 books a week, something along those lines. Because we want to do what you want us to do. We want to make you happy. That is it. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.